How is it going, folks? Welcome back to Parts Prem. Today is episode number 53, and it is a transfer special ahead of season number 8. If you missed last episode, it was an absolute banger. You should definitely go watch it. We secured promotion to the championship, and now we begin that process of trying to ready ourselves for that unexpected step up this year. I say unexpected in the sense that I didn't really think we'd get promoted to the championship, certainly not as champions, although the way in which we did it was dubious. Before we go into things, there is one thing I forgot to cover last episode that the people weren't happy about, and I can only apologise. Ian Williamson, our 21-year-old, I'm going to refer to him as a wonder kid assistant manager. He's not anything special. I mean, I wish you could see staff potential, because they do have it. People were asking last episode, has he improved? I don't know, is the answer. I think he's got a little bit better. I've just requested that he does another coaching course. Model citizen personality. I hope Ian is actually going to be a good assistant manager eventually. I mean, he's not awful now, but he could be a bit better. Anyway, the date today in game is the 11th of June, and whilst the transfer budget sits at that ludicrously high fee, the reality is with £3.5 million in the bank and a bloated first team, if we do want to get business done today, it's probably going to involve selling some players on. And well, the good news for us is players have high values, and today we're back and the transfer window is opening. Hoping we can get some big sales and signings done this summer. Maybe some fan favourites are going to have to leave. We're going to have to see what interest is out there. Before we get into that, let's run the intro. Okay, well, we've hit continue once. Offers made for Guerrero. I'm going to click on that in a moment, but not before we acknowledge two signings, two players that I think I covered last episode. I definitely covered Mamadou Dia last episode. This guy's a 21-year-old centre-back who's super inconsistent, but I've signed him because I've got a load of Senegalese players joining, and I feel like I need a little hive of them in the team. We've got 3 Senegalese players. You know how you have, like, packs of wolves and, you know, different kind of groups of animals? It's a hive of Senegalese. That's what they're referred to as. I realise that almost sounds offensive. I don't mean it that way. Anyway, the other player we picked up is Scott Gill, 17 years old, one for the future, maybe, released by Man City. We've just snapped him up at the end of his youth contract. He won't be near the first team anytime soon. Kind of concerned. He's apparently not got as much potential as I thought he had. That could be a problem. I mean, we signed him for free. It's fine. Okay, here is the big one. Not Ramirov playing for the Azerbaijan youth team, although he did recently play for their main national team. Not a bad player, but never going to be good enough for us. The big thing is this. Offers made for Guerrero. Okay. It's not as much money as I was hoping for. Of course, Jaime Guerrero, at 19 years old, is our best player. We've still got him contracted for the next 3 years. And at 19 years old, he is just a fantastic talent. Worth noting, he's not that far. Well, I was about to say he's not that far away from being homegrown at club. Why is it showing him as homegrown at club now? I'm confused. He's not been here 3 years. Oh, I genuinely don't know. What's going on there? Either way, it doesn't matter. Here he is, and his value is 1.7 to 3.2 million pounds. I think he's worth like 15 to 20 million pounds. I feel like the value is dragged down by our reputation as a football club. And with him contracted for another 3 years, I don't want to sell him for less than 10 million pounds. So the fact that the biggest offer I've got is from Arsenal of 2.4 million, it's not exactly ideal. I have a sneaking suspicion that none of these offers are going to be satisfactory. But you know what? We'll try and ask for £10 million. I'll lay out my demands. They've not told me to do one immediately. They have actually negotiated it, albeit back to 2 million. Even at like 8.5 million, I don't really want to sell him. 7.5? No, I'm not selling him. Not for these prices. None of these offers are going to be negotiable to the level that I want them to be. I'm rejecting them all. I mean, it's going to be a long summer, isn't it? If they keep bidding for him. I hope that we get some good big bids eventually, if indeed I do have to let him go. The reality is, I don't really want to let him go. Guerrero wants to discuss not moving to Arsenal. The valuation wasn't high enough. Here is a fair price. That is not a fair price, is it? 15 million. I don't want to lose you. I really wish you could preview kind of what their demands are going to be for their asking price before you kind of go into that chat. Because now he's just sad. I say he's sad. He's negative. Our director of football, worried. Paul, new director of football, by the way, signed during this year. It's going to be fine, Paul. I realise I never mentioned the signing of Paul, our new director of football. I just brought him in because I was being lazy about staff renewals and I just wanted to ask him to renew them for us. Okay, this is annoying. I was going to do a surprise transfer where I go, hey, look at this, surprise player. No, he's turned us down to go to Augsburg. 18 years old, Danish, available on a free at the end of his contract. Had some negatives, but I thought he'd be a fun punt. Sadly, he's not joining us. And sadly, they're not giving Ian his coaching course. Give Ian the coaching course. Justice for Ian. Ian doesn't have any interest. Ian, why do you not want to be better? Ian, why do you not want to be better? I'll tell you what a roller coaster of a start to today's episode. I hope that's not foreshadowing, but it just feels like there could be a lot going on today. There is interest in Ngoma, there is interest in Ricky D, there's no interest in Soonsup Bell, so that's good. And also, our fourth highest value player is the new signing, Mamadou Dia at centre-back. I feel like with Mamadou Dia signing for us and Sergio joining us as a centre-back option, having got a work permit, being on loan in the Netherlands for the year just gone, maybe it's time to sell a centre-back or two. I don't know which I'd sell, though. I don't know if it's controversial. I look at Mkize and think 4.3 to 5.4 million for you could be very, very good. Is Sergio good enough to step up and fill his boots? From a defensive and mental point of view, maybe. I am very concerned about Sergio's physicals. That is kind of the issue with Sergio. In some ways, he'd be better off being a defensive midfielder, maybe. I don't know. What do you do with Sergio? The man can play football well. He just can't really header and he can't really run. I don't know. I think I am just going to offer him Mkize out just to see if there's any interest there. Apparently, I've been told he might not be happy if I offer him out. I'm doing it anyway. He got sent off last episode. He deserves it. This might be controversial. I think I am just going to offer out Goldsmith and Soonsup Bell just to see if there's any interest in either of them. We are kind of in a predicament with the strikers where we've got so many great young strikers coming up through our ranks. In many ways, I want to create space for them. And we started doing that last year, and then I panicked and realised, oh, maybe they're not good enough, the youngsters, yet. I do look at the likes of Sam Fay, who's developed amazingly, and also Espinoza, and think, you know what? Probably ready to play first-team football now. And if they are ready, I don't need this many people, especially with Zenher getting a work permit too. I'm just looking at Zenher here. He kind of reminds me of Guerrero. Is that a mad comparison? He's like the Portuguese Guerrero. If we lost Guerrero, Zenher maybe could do a job. I mean, he's not as good. He's a year older as well, but possible, maybe? I'm not sure. I did also discuss the idea of selling Ferrarinson. I'm going to offer him out for an unspecified amount. Not sure if we'll get a load of offers yet. For most transfer windows in Europe, they don't actually open until July time, so it's only really teams, I think, in England that are going to be bidding on our players at least right now. Okay, we have an offer. It's not for any of the players I've just offered out. It's for Guerrero, and it's from Wolves. It's worth 1.9 million. Reject. Jude is not happy I'm trying to sell him. I need to improve the club's financial position. I'd have rather avoid confrontation. I guess Jude's staying for the year. Yeah, I guess Jude's staying. I mean, if he's the one who had interest in him, I'd be worried, but actually no one seemed to be interested in him, and no one's interested in any of the players I've just offered out. This might be a case of get to July, so the rest of the transfer windows around the world open, and then maybe we get some bids. Every time I hit continue, there are new bids on Guerrero. Bristol City, Tottenham, no, it's not even worth negotiating. They've offered potentially £2.4 million. The reality is, I think this guy could be imperative to a good championship performance for us next year. He's contracted for 3 years. I don't think we're going to make less money on him by keeping him at the contract for a year where we can develop him more, playing the championship with higher rep. If anything, I think he'll be worth more next summer. Yeah, I don't think we're selling him. And unless something mental happens, which, I mean, it could. PSG were interested at one point, as are, well, just all the teams around the world of football. I almost feel like when there's this many teams interested in your player, you kind of have to realise they probably have mad potential, which makes me want to keep him even more. It's tricky because on the one hand, the transfer window's open, so I feel like I should be trying to sign some players, but on the other, our first team is so large at the moment, ignore the fact I've only got strikers showing here, our first team and kind of current squad depth is so large right now, especially with a few more players joining us when they turn 18. The reality is, we've got like a 30-man first team. It's far too big. I need to sell some players. But also, I am just going to sit here and look at some of the players available and see if they're any good. I hope that's fine. Morgan Stafford, Scottish player playing for Hibs. He looks very, very good, does he not? Available for 450k. I don't want to sell Ricky D, and this could be blasphemous, but if I got the right offer for him and I did indeed sell him, Morgan would be a pretty good no-brainer replacement, wouldn't he? Especially for the price. I kind of am tempted to sign him anyway. Our current next option, I suppose, at right back is Nesbitt. And if I just compare him with Morgan, it's safe to say Morgan is just better. Maybe Nesbitt could go out on loan or something. I mean, he's not the youngest player at 21, and he is kind of inconsistent, but I think in terms of value for money, you could do a lot worse. There are a few other teams interested in him, which could make things tough, but I'm going to make an offer just in case I get a bid for Ricky D. It's good to have the replacement already lined up. Okay, this could be the problem this year. He wants £4,000 to £6,000 as a squad player. Our current highest earner is on £4,500. Let's hope that the kind of suggestion here is wrong and actually his demands are going to be more reasonable. He wants £8,000 after 25 games played and a release clause of $2 million. No, not doing that. We're only a few days away from that season tick-over date where our promotion will be confirmed, our players come back from their kind of breaks over the summer, and then maybe we can start to get the ball rolling on a little bit more. I feel like until then and until the transfer window opens, really, we're just mashing continue here and seeing what happens. There's some players here who I've been scouting for a while who I'd love to sign. Luis Martinez used to have a release clause of $200,000. I've been eyeing him up for years. Get a sneaking suspicion he won't be joining us. Although if we did sign him, he'd be mental. Park to Prem and Uruguayans. That was a thing last year, wasn't it, with Gustavo Lemos? I'd love to repeat it. Presumably, he still doesn't want to join us. No. He's only on £500 a week as well. I'm livid. QPR have made a bid for Guerrero. Guerrero has no interest. Excellent. Imagine if I sold him to QPR. That would be mental. Every time I hit continue, someone is bidding on him. Until someone bids over £10 million, I'm not even going to negotiate. I suppose with that in mind, just setting an asking price of £15 million should be okay. Apparently, he might be unhappy with this asking price. The proposed asking price is fair. Oh my God, it's the same situation as before, isn't it? 4.2 million. I'm not prepared to negotiate it. I'll tell you what, we really are just pissing off all the players. I mean, good news is, it's like 2 month and a half till the season starts. I can get them all on side before then if I piss them off early, I hope. Here, by the way, is a list of the players with contracts expiring at the end of the year. Mike McCarthy, we talked about him last episode, came in as a backup goalkeeper. He wants £2,000 and he wouldn't even get a work permit with that. So naturally, he's not going to be kept around. There were some good young players in here. Lloyd Hope is a player who I think could go on to be a great player, but he wants £2,000 a week. Nowhere near our first team and not of the quality to hit it. Elsewhere, there's a few players like Luke Meredith who were maybe once upon a time a player I held in high regard. To be fair, we signed him in 2025. Many seasons ago now. We've climbed up the league since then, and I suppose that applies to a few other players like Harrison Jones as well. Players who came through our youth intake, showed a lot of promise early on, but simply couldn't keep up with the rise that our team has been on. You look at someone like Jones, came through our very first ever intake? No, second ever intake. We tried to give him opportunities where we could, but yeah, I mean, you can see by how he's looking now. Not championship quality, sadly. Apparently our stature has increased significantly in the last year. That is good to see. And in terms of League One sponsorship, you can see here the highest earners were Forest Green Rovers with £3.3 million in sponsorship. We got £60,000 in sponsorship. The average was 1.2 million. How have we got promoted? How have we won the league like this? Here we have the League One season review. It means that we are just on the cusp of going into that new year. We were the overachievers, underachievers, Sheffield Wednesday. Their media prediction was 5th. They were relegated. That is mad, isn't it, to see Sheffield Wednesday drop down 2 divisions in 3 years. And of course, with it being the end of the season, we also have the top signings of the year. Ferrarinson leading the way, Ryan Morgan up there as well, and then Reading with a whole host of players who did quite well for them. I mean, some of these players like Morgan Rogers, they signed on a free. This guy's very good for a free transfer. Then you realise they're paying him £10,000 a week. And we just can't compete with that. That would be a fifth of our wage budget on him. And he might be good. He's not a fifth of your wage budget good. Okay, the new season is here. Media prediction, we'll find out in a moment. Board expectation, avoid relegation. We will try and do that at the very least. I can't even select to hire achievement kind of to go for if I was to try. A little bit disappointing they're not giving me the aim of attempt to avoid relegation. Does mean there's a bit more pressure on us to stay up. The board wish to hold a meeting regarding improving our youth level. I mean, when I asked for this like a month ago, they said no, but yeah, that's a great idea. Let's make ourselves category 1, Brian. It's not like I asked for that a month ago. Hate Brian. I really hate him. Oh my God, doing that has made our youth facilities go up and we have to pay £2 million for them. I mean, maybe I should have seen that coming. What does that take our balance to? 1.2 million. We lose £500,000 every month. It's going to be fine. Everything's fine. Okay, here on the club profile screen, media prediction 21st. I think that's the lowest it's ever been during our time here at Rugby Town. And we are, in fact, on this screen here, predicted to finish 22nd. The only silver lining, Guerrero, is in the Media Dream 11. Interesting to note as well, Swedberg, who of course was playing for QPR last year in our division, League One, he is also in the Media Dream 11. Feels like it could be a good year for the newly promoted teams. QPR, media prediction of 5th. 5th? They finished 3rd in League One last year. What is going on here? I have now set an asking price for Guerrero of £15 million, and in spite of that, Wolves have decided that £5.5 million is suffice. Yeah, we're rejecting that. We are going to receive £2.9 million in Championship TV revenue, so call it £3 million over the course of 12 months. That is going to equate to £250,000 a month. Considering we were losing £500,000 a month, that's going to stop the losses just a little bit. Guerrero still is the only player I'm currently getting bids for. I feel like we just have to get to the 1st of July, and then we can really kind of properly get into the squad planning. Speaking of which, Man City have made a bid of 5.5 million. Man City, I want £15 million and 50% of any profit. They've offered 6.5. I'm going to be cheeky here. I want £10 million up front. I want another £10 million after 6 months, and I want 50% of any profit. Okay, I will admit it, that was stupid. Good news, though, the bids for him are going up for Guerrero. We will get to the £15 million eventually, maybe. Crystal Palace have now made a bid that could be worth £8 million. Yeah, these offers are getting bigger and bigger. I want 15 million, and I want 50% of any profit. Maybe I'm being too greedy. I mean, ultimately, like I said before, I feel like I don't have to sell him this year because he's probably going to be worth more next year. But naturally, if someone wants to just set a suitcase of £15 million in front of me, probably I'm going to struggle to say no. I've just noticed here, with our promotion, some of our player values have shot up. Ricky Dean now 9.8 to 11.5 million pounds, and Goma 17.5 to 19 million. If anyone bids that much, they can have him. I'm sorry, he's not that good. I have just gone through and made sure we've released all the players whose contracts expired who chose not to leave the club upon expiry. I don't want to be paying anything unnecessary. Elsewhere, we have got a load of loaned out players returning from loan. The likes of Sergio and Zenher, I've already talked about. Players who I think could definitely do a job in our first team. One man who can't do a job in our first team because he hasn't got a work permit is Luis Mosquera here. He has been on loan in Greece for the year just gone. 7 goals in 15 games for the Panama International. I feel like he's improved quite a lot. At 18 years old, I'm unreasonably excited for how good he could be. Okay, transfer windows are opening around the world. I can see here there's a whole host of new interest in. This is now where the transfer window is going to start to get transfery. Okay, there are actually some significant offers here. Brighton have offered £7 million. Through instalments for Guerrero. I'm going to stick to my guns. I want 15. I want 15. I won't take any less. It's crazy how many teams are interested in Guerrero. It almost makes me want to be more determined to keep him around. The level of interest is just absurd, to the point where I'm now more convinced than ever he must be just insane when it comes to his potential and how good he can become. We've had some offers for Goldsmith here. Reading have offered £4 million. Borussia Mönchengladbach have offered £3 million. Oxford have offered £3.2 million. Goldsmith is a good player. I feel like all these bids are a bit below his value, but unfortunately only the Borussia Mönchengladbach one we can actually negotiate. I feel like realistically I want to try and get £4 million for him. If we could get that, it'd be amazing. I might be being a bit ambitious, but you know what? It's early on in the window. I'm going to offer him out for that £4 million, make it clear what we expect to get for him, and we can kind of just go from there. In fact, you know what? To start things off, I'm going to start high, work my way down. We'll offer him out for £5 million. Bromley have made an offer to loan Zenher for the year. I don't think he's available, I'm afraid, Bromley. He is a player who I think is going to be around for the coming year, so we'll make him unavailable for loan. I like the look of this guy a lot, and in fact, apparently, Sunderland are rumoured in an interest with him. I mean, they're going to have to pay big bucks if they want him. I realise I don't do this nearly enough. I've just asked Sergio's agent if there's any interest in him. Apparently there is. Obviously, we'll wait and see if the interest is right. I guess we should also do this, the same with players like Goldsmith here. Apparently there's teams willing to make bids. We'll invite in some offers. Mkize's a man who I might be willing to sell for the right price. Is there anyone interested? Apparently not. Apparently he's not a priority with other clubs. Means that I might be looking to move on Sergio. I do like Sergio, but the physicals, the 7 acceleration at any high level is just going to be a problem. I mean, we signed him on a free transfer at the start of last year, and the reality is, with his lack of pace and the fact he's 21, it's not like he's getting any younger. If he has got some potential, maybe it's best just to cash in on him early. Does Ferrarinson's agent think there is any interest in him? No, there's not. I noticed that Brodie Spencer has an astronomically high value for how average he is. Definitely a player that, with all the new additions we've got coming in, might be disposable. Apparently there's no interest in him. I'm going to transfer list him and get rid of him, I think. Brodie Spencer's one of those players who's just kind of fallen down the pecking order. When you sort the squad by ability right down towards the bottom, there's probably a few other players here I should be looking to move on, like McLaughlin too. We'll transfer list McLaughlin and offer him out for an unspecified price. Luke Chambers is I was going to say our backup left back. He probably isn't going to become the start of the year though, because we've got NDIA coming in, who is a much better left back option. So I am willing to sell Chambers for the right price if there is indeed some interest in him. Yeah, apparently there are clubs interested, but he might not be a priority. We'll transfer list him and offer him out for an unspecified amount. Would like to get just any little bit of money we can for these kind of very mediocre players, especially the ones with lower value. I'm not expecting anything too astronomical. We have had some more bids for Guerrero here. AC Milan have offered £10.25 million, but it's locked in. Not going to negotiate that. There is some interest in other players here. Finn Brundle is one such player. Probably shouldn't be loan listed. He is probably going to be our immediate backup goalkeeper this coming year. We've had bids for Goldsmith. A load of teams have bid the £4 million that I thought I might be interested in. And we've got bids on Sergio as well. Tenerife have offered £3.4 million, guaranteed to rise above £4 million. I'm very tempted to take that. Sergio, by the way, is a mad good player in terms of his mentals, but with his heading being a bit lackluster and his lack of physicals, I feel like pace is so important at the elite level. I don't think he's ever going to be the long-term centre-back option at this club. In fact, of course, we didn't really have him around this year just gone. And ultimately, that money from Tenerife is probably too much to turn down. £3.4 million, that will help us out this summer. Apparently, Timmy and Ferrarinson think that Ngoma should get a new contract. You might be wondering, Jack, how much does Ngoma want from a new deal? He wants £18.75 thousand to £22,000 a week. I can't afford that, obviously. Right, let's circle back to these Goldsmith bids. None of these have been locked in, which is interesting. Borussia Mönchengladbach have offered £4 million. I'm going to accept their offer just to begin with and then try and negotiate some of these bids up. Of course, we did originally ask for £5 million. Reading are only willing to go up to 4.2. I'd rather not sell him to a divisional rival, I don't think. Oxford don't think the £5 million is reasonable at all. Charlton, will you do £5 million? They won't. Okay, I mean, if Goldsmith's going to leave for £4 million, I think that's a pretty good deal. I know he is a bit of a fan favourite, and he is and has been a great player for us. But £4 million for a player who is slipping down the pecking order, I think is just kind of smart money to take. When you look at players sorted by kind of star ratings here, we've got a lot of strikers kind of in that similar ballpark. Maybe you could have asked for a profit of sell-on from Borussia Mönchengladbach now I think about it. I might still offer him out again just to try and get a bidding war going. Oh, okay, we've got bids for players I didn't really plan on selling here. Gasperi has some bids on him. None of those bids are any good whatsoever. I mean, they're barely scraping his valuation, so we're going to reject them. And Nesbitt has had an offer from Bristol City. Sean Nesbitt, I did set an asking price here of £2.5 million on him. I feel like he's a good player for us, but he's not a great player. Question marks over his potential at 19 years old. The kind of player who we could look to just flip on for some money. Bristol City were unwilling to pay above £1 million. Are they willing to pay above £2 million? I feel like any less than 2 and it's just not really worth selling him. I say that. I'm going to 1.8. Of course I'm going to 1.8. How does this sound, Bristol City? They hated it. So I did just try offering out Goldsmith for a larger sum of money. Sadly, no one came in to hijack the bid. Well, apparently St Mirren are looking to do it. They've not done it enough. I mean, we're selling him for £4 million at the moment. Let's offer him out for 4.5. Come on, St Mirren. Hijack the bid. Guerrero's out for 3 weeks. That's annoying. Toby Hines is out for 1 to 2 days. I can live with that. So right now, between Sergio and Goldsmith, we're going to be recouping around £7.4 million in transfer fees and, of course, some additional clauses down the line for Sergio. That is some pretty good money that I don't think weakens the team too massively. That's not to say that Goldsmith wouldn't be missed. I just don't look at him and think championship-level striker. And that is the level we're at now. Are we in a situation where I have to sell Ngoma? I mean, the reality is he's still got 4 years left on his current contract, which is a part-time deal as a reminder, but I can't pay him £18,000 a week. It literally physically cannot do it. And if that's the case, at 22 years old, thinking that he might have achieved his potential, is it time just to sell him on and maybe look to buy him back down the line? I don't necessarily think it's the stupidest idea in the world. Sadly, his agent doesn't think there's a whole lot of interest in him. We'll offer him out for an unspecified amount and see if there's any interest there. He's not happy. He's a player who I look at, and whilst I think it'd be difficult to replace him, there probably is a player out there we could do it with. Ultimately, it would take a bid in the region of what his value's at for me to consider selling him. Apparently, Levante have interest. They play in the second tier of Spain. I don't want to poo-poo on Levante's aspirations here. Can't help but feel like they can't afford his current valuation. Watford have made a bid for Brodie Spencer here of £1.2 million. I am going to take that offer for him. I don't think he's a £1.2 million player, and to be frank, he's just not good enough for us anymore. We picked him up in the National League. Last year, he featured a little bit, 14 appearances, only 6 starts, wasn't a regular player by any means. And elsewhere, AFC Wimbledon have made a bid for McLaughlin. Given the fact we've got an abundance of great centre-backs coming through, I feel like he's kind of served his purpose in the team. Similar player to Brodie Spencer, someone we brought in when we were in the National League. And now, with where we are, not good enough. No offers for Luke Chambers yet, a similar mould of player, a player who I'm probably willing to kind of let move on if the right offer comes in. There are teams wanting him, so hopefully someone comes in eventually. We have had an inquiry by Sunderland for Zenner here, who, I mean, I look at, and to be honest, I feel like his valuation is really, really low for how good he is, and I can't imagine I'm going to get good money from Sunderland. I mean, really, I'd be asking for like £5 million, and I know they're not going to take that. I feel like this guy could be great for us. Obviously, he's been playing last year in Poland, not really done wonders for his reputation or value, but he will get minutes in the Championship this current year. Levante have made a bid for Ngoma. Ngoma is unhappy and wants to know why I'm encouraging every option that would lead to him being sold. Mate, you've said that you want to leave the club. You've been crying for weeks. I mean, we can't afford it. I need to improve the club's financial position. He thinks he's on reasonable wages. Yeah, you are. You're on £1,000 a week. You want 19,000. I'm sorry that you feel like you're being forced out. What? Is he okay, Ngoma? Is he okay? I mean, Levante bid 7.5 million. I want 16. They can't afford that. That was somewhat predictable. I mean, what do we do with Ngoma? He wants a new contract, so he's unhappy about that. He doesn't want to leave, though. So does he just want to stay here and be unhappy about the contract situation? I guess so. Our season, by the way, starts on the 3rd of August with an away day to Sunderland. We follow that up with a home game against Middlesbrough. They are two good little teams. Sunderland, media prediction of 3rd. Middlesbrough, media prediction of 12th. Two teams who are probably going to be giving us a bit of a warm welcome to the Championship. I'm saying all of that knowing that I need to strengthen this team. I need to get as well a better idea of what I've actually got to work with. So I'm going to move all the players currently leaving the club down to the under-21s just to kind of get a better visualisation of the squad. Takes our first team now down to 25 players. When I sort by position here, I actually feel like we're quite well-rounded. I feel like we've got a lot of boxes ticked, although a-hole Chuddy, I'm going to be honest, mate, you're probably just going to be chilling in the under-21s this year. Signed him as a sentimental transfer. Now I'm just keeping him around as a hostage. I'm just sat here thinking about my team for the upcoming year. Keeley, I feel like, is a championship-level goalkeeper. I feel like star ratings are a really bad indicator in Football Manager because they are weighted heavily towards recent form, which for goalkeepers and defensive midfielders usually really screws them over. Generally speaking, you'll very rarely have really high star-rated defensive mids and goalkeepers in Football Manager, just because of how the grading works. Keeley's actual attributes here, I think, are good enough for the Championship. Certainly better than anything I think we're going to be realistically able to pick up, especially for £350 a week. It's kind of criminal how little we're paying him. At right back, I feel like Ricky D is the obvious option this year, and at left back, Morgan has to be up there. I feel like Morgan might face some competition this year with the upcoming edition of NDIA. If we compare the two of them here, I think it's safe to say the Senegalese youngster is a much, much better player. And at 17 years old, I just have to give him as much first-team football as possible. So to be honest, probably NDIA coming in to play left back. Morgan will be on the bench. Centre-back wise, I think it is going to be Gasperi and Mkize. There is some interest in Mkize, but I don't think it's going to amount to anything that is worth considering selling him for. I feel like these two guys are pretty complementary of one another. Mkize's not the quickest player, and well, Gasperi's not the most technical, but together they kind of cover each other's weaknesses nicely. Of course, there was the consideration maybe that we'd use Sergio this year, but actually having compared Mkize with Sergio and looking at that pace, which I just can't get over, I just feel like Mkize is a more complete defensive option for us, certainly from a technical and physical point of view. Now, when it comes to the defensive midfielders, last year I actually played with these two guys the other way around. I thought about it a little bit more, and I actually think Timmy is better suited to be a deep line playmaker for us. Not the best in this role by any means, but he is a super consistent player who likes important matches. He is maybe a player we could look to upgrade on this summer. João Victor alongside him, I really like the look of the 19-year-old. I feel like we just have to give him as many minutes as possible. He is on an ESC contract as well, so we need to give him the minutes so he qualifies for that. But as far as complete defensive midfielders go, at this level at least, I don't think you're going to do much better. I feel like Guerrero and Goma are two players that we could be here with come the start of the year, and if they're here, they have to start. If they're not here, we have got good players who could cup in. I think Hines would be the obvious option to bring in and play as a Trequartista out on the right-hand side. Really look like the look of this 19-year-old with a load of potential. He needs minutes to develop, and if Ngoma isn't here, I think Sam Fay is a fairly obvious player to bring in. Maybe not quite of championship quality. Really, in the championship, I'm looking for 13s and 14s in the key attributes per role, so he falls a little bit below that benchmark in certain areas, but at 17, I mean, the potential's there. The improvement has been fantastic. So I feel like depth-wise, actually, across the squad, we're not in a terrible situation. I feel like a lot of our signings are going to be reactions to who we can possibly move on. Striking-wise, of course, Goldsmith is not going to be here as the left striking option. I think what that means is that Jude is going to start, and it's probably going to be alongside Ferrarinson. I say that knowing that Ferrarinson has really annoyed me with his drop-off in performances lately, and he could easily find himself dropping down the order. Who we'd bring in over him? I mean, Hines would be an option. Obviously, talked about him as a right-sided player, but to be honest, as an advanced forward, he's very, very good for this level. It's all about those kind of 13s and 14s I mentioned before, which, I mean, he has in most areas for a 19-year-old. And in terms of further attacking depth, we still have the likes of Espinoza, who is a really good striker who I think can play as a pressing forward or the advanced forward. And then we have players like Zenha as well, who is a great squad option. To be honest, the more I look at this team, the more I realise it's been built really well to the point where the players that we're selling now, Goldsmith, Sergio, they're not players where I'm sat thinking, crap, I have to bring in someone to replace them who's younger and cheaper. Those replacements are already here. I talked about NDIA at left back. Of course, Kamara will also be joining us very, very soon. In fact, he joins us in 2 weeks' time. The 17-year-old is a really good option at centre attack in mid. He can't play defensive mid. I have got question marks over if I want to train him there. I could see a world where we do just train him to play out on the wide area as a Trequartista. Saying all of that, I love his 17 work rate and 15 stamina. It makes me wonder if a dynamic kind of box-to-box midfielder role could be one for him, or even maybe play him at right back. We could have NDIA at left back, and then this guy at right back. Am I going crazy thinking that he could do a job at right back? Given the fact he's only 17, we could definitely improve his marking. That is food for thought. I have quickly just blocked out a bench as well, which looks really, really good. I think the obvious area for improvement would be a defensive midfielder, maybe someone to compete with Timmy and João Victor, a really kind of good deep line playmaking option. Besides that, maybe a right back if we look to move on Ricky D. Otherwise, I might be looking to move on either Ferrarinson or I was going to say Jude, but I don't think it would be Jude. If I move on Ferrarinson, maybe we go out and find a really kind of big star striker who I feel confident can do it in the championship. I do have some reservations over whether or not Jude and Ferrarinson are of championship quality. I feel like Jude is a very, very good player, and if you've played Football Manager, you've probably seen him pop up and be absolutely amazing. in this universe, there's a reason he dropped to us in the National League. And whilst he's scored at each and every level we brought him up through, I am a little bit scared this might just be a step too far. Okay, Brighton have now put in a pretty decent bid. £14.5 million, but achieved through clauses. I don't like clauses. Do I even want to sell Guerrero for £15 million? Am I about to hold out for £15 million only to decide, actually, I'd like a little bit more? I wonder if they'll let me loan him back for the year. The answer to that question is no. Oh, Brighton, you weren't meant to do this. £15 million. 15. That is, it's so much money for a player who, I mean, is brilliant and will probably be worth so much more than that. It does include a 30% profit. Am I just going to live to regret it if I sell him to Brighton? But then if I don't take the £15 million, am I going to regret that forever too? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to accept this offer and I'm going to offer him out for more and see if we can get a bit more interest. I really don't know if I want to sell him for 15 million, which I know is ridiculous because that's the asking price I set for him. And now I'm saying that might not be enough. But I just feel like sometimes you have players in your Football Manager saves who are, well, you can't put a value on their head, and Guerrero might be one such player. Espinosa, by the way, showing some crazy development apparently in recent times. Now a decent player for League One, apparently could have potential to be a leading championship striker. He is improving crazily. I really like the look of Espinosa. Okay. Well, I offered Guerrero out for 17.5, and Alaves and Las Palmas' bids have just been accepted by the board. The board have decided £17 million is enough for Guerrero. I think they're probably right. I am now going to reject the other offer that we received, though. Sorry, Brighton, if you want him, you have to match that £17.5 million. Although, actually, no, I'm gonna be silly here. I want £20 million now and 50% profit. Will someone now bid that? That would be nice. I mean, the issue with these bids that the board have accepted is there is no sell-on. I suppose the advantage here is it is a second division Spanish team that he'd be going to in Las Palmas or Alaves, which would mean that there's a higher chance, I think, that we could get him back eventually. If he was to go to a Premier League club, yeah, it's going to be a lot harder to pull him back in a year or two's time. I think at this point, we just have to assume Guerrero is going. And if he is going, I suppose Hines is now the man who you bring in to play out on that right-hand side. I feel like in some ways we've kind of known this moment would come. We've been preparing for it. Of course, Hines was a record transfer at the time and we kind of brought in to be the understudy. Whether or not he excelled as an understudy, I guess there's a bit of a question mark. But now there's going to be pressure on him to perform. I did take it upon myself just to offer out a couple of our youth players like El Sad, who are good players who don't really, I think, have a future at the club for as good as they are. So any money we could receive would be nice. He is valued at around 230k. Initial offers were a bit below that, but I offered him out unspecified. So we'll offer him out again and hopefully get a little bit more. Elsewhere, we've had a bid for Angoy here. We picked up this guy, you might remember, from Gillingham for £10,000 as a bit of a punt for the future. There were some question marks over his potential. I noticed his value was looking pretty healthy. I can sell him here for £185,000, which, I mean, it's not terrible money. It's not near his value, but to be honest, that valuation feels very, very bloated. And I'm somewhat tempted just to kind of take the money that's been offered. We do have to pay some of his wages, but it's still some really good money to receive for a player who I don't think is going to get near the first team. We have also had some loan offers for Jaeger. I like the look of Jaeger, but he's just not quite first team ready right now. I think the best bet is to get him a loan move. Looking at the loan options here, some teams who want him as a regular starter or important player over in the second tier of Germany. So yeah, hopefully we can get one of these lined up for him. So in the end, I reviewed all these options. I'm going to go with the 1860 Munich option just because they want to make him an important first team player. Some regular first team minutes for them could be good. They've got good training facilities as well. Yeah, I think that could be a really good loan move, actually, for Jaeger. He needs first-team football. I don't think I can give it to him this year. You can see here as well a whole host of other players that I have just offered out. Chambers is the most valuable of that lot. Still not attracting any bids, even though he has interest in him. Elsewhere, Hamilton I have offered out. No one nibbling on him as an option, of course. Last year was on loan at Colchester, a player who was a great product of our academy, but just isn't good enough for the first team, I'm afraid to say. I'm going to offer him out again and see if we can get any offers. In fact, I'm going to transfer list him as well. Jermaine McCulloch I also offered out. He was included in Jamaica's preliminary World Cup squad, but he wasn't included in the final setup. I'm going to transfer list him and just offer him out. Sadly, we gave him some chances last year and he just didn't live up to expectations. He's not good enough for the Championship either. He struggled in League One. I don't want to be relying on him as a squad option this year either. The other two players, by the way, Benjamin Hurst, a good young player, has bags of potential at 20 years old. We do actually have the option to trigger a contract extension. Given the lack of interest in him, we're going to trigger that. And elsewhere, Harry Johnson was a player who you might remember came through our youth intake, had loads and loads of potential, but could only play on the wing. Truth be told, he isn't very good. He's 20 years old now. I'm just trying to get some cash from him. No one's bidding on him, though. The ongoing saga of transfers to AFC Wimbledon continues. Sean McLaughlin leaving for £375,000. The 33-year-old joined us on a free transfer, gave us 3 good years of service, but surplus to requirements, not getting any younger. Really good money to get for him, to be fair. And elsewhere, another big transfer here, Goldsmith departing for £4 million. I know some people are going to be a bit upset about this one, maybe think I could have got more. Ultimately, he is a player who I think really relies on his physicals to get an edge, and as we climb up the leagues, that is going to become less and less of an advantage he has over opposition players. We signed him for £5,000. We're selling him on for £4 million. Who knows? He could pop up again in the future. We could sign him back for sentimental value, but yeah, £4 million for him, a player who was very much a backup striker last year, is just good money. Still got potentially £21 million in deals still to go through here between Sergio and Guerrero, both looking like they are going to be on the verge of moves to Spain. Of course, Ngoy chipping them with a pitiful amount by comparison. There is going to be some money to spend next episode. And in fact, speaking of the Devils, Sergio's transfer can be confirmed. £4.2 million received. £2.2 million of that is going to go into the transfer budget. Could potentially rise above £5 million. This guy is a great little player, but considering we picked him up on a free 12 months ago, to flip him on for this kind of money, given our current position, it's just a bit of a no-brainer. Ngoma and Ryan Morgan, very unhappy about the fact I sold Sergio, despite the fact he never played a first-team game. I tried to win them over. It's not worked. To be fair, I think I could say that Ngoma looks really nice today, and he'd still find a way to turn it into an argument with me. He's very unhappy at the moment as our Ngoma. I might have to start referring to him in the first name, just start calling him Murphy. Then maybe he'll listen to me. I probably should be more worried about the fact that the start of the season is 3.5 weeks away, and right now, our transfer history looks like this. We've sold a load of players. Maybe I need to start signing people. Now, given the fact it's the 10th of July and we need to sign some players, I feel like logically one of the early starting points really should be to just look at players who are available as free transfers. There are lists of players here. There's players I really recognise as well. Players like Thierry Small, who would be a good little left-back option, to be fair, at 25 years old. There's also Shatire here, or Shortire. Shatire just sounds better, doesn't it? I don't know why I want to call him Shatire. It sounds more exciting and exotic or something. This guy's very, very good. He's also wanted by Preston North End and Watford. How much is he going to want to be a regular starter? Do your worst. Okay, well, he really took that literally. He's asking for £17,000. The highest I can offer a player is £7,000. He would have been a useful player as well, but not at that price. I am going to lower the transfer interest to slightly interested just to try and alleviate some of those players that ask for stupid sums of money. You can see of the players we've got scouted here, there are some good options out there. A few of these, you might remember, are some of the amateur Belgian players we were looking at before. There's still a handful of them around that our scouts like the look of. Sadly, none of them fit into the role of right-sided trequartista or that deep line playmaker option that I said we might be looking for. Martin Ferreira here is an interesting option. Playing for Benfica's youth team, has come up through their ranks but been released recently. Could he be a good deep line playmaker option? There's a lot to like about him in terms of his mentals, physicals. Technicals are maybe lacking slightly. Of course, he would be coming in to replace Timmy. So naturally, we should probably compare him versus Timmy. He's not a dissimilar mould of player. He is also a very, very good player. I've noticed here that Timmy's valued at 8.6 to 9.4 million. Freya, do you want to join us? Do you want to join us? How much is he going to ask for? He wants a release clause. I'm not going to give him it. What kind of damage? £10,500. Yeah, that's pain. Although, one thing to note here, you can see at the bottom, Rugby Town are allowed to allocate one of their 2 remaining ESC places, because he wouldn't get a work permit, In the Championship, we get 4 ESC slots as opposed to 2. And if I'm not mistaken, Ferrarington's ESC slot should be coming up for review soon. In fact, it comes up for review on the 10th of August, so we could end up with another slot there as well. I'm just looking here at players that have been scouted by my staff that are kind of sorted by ability. Roberto Lopez is apparently the best of the bunch. I hope that the scout report that we're looking at here was massively out of date and he used to be way better. He is awful. Connor Hesketh is on loan at Carlisle at the moment. This guy's very good, isn't he? He's a super inconsistent player, but he was playing for Crystal Palace. Of course, we signed Ngoma from Crystal Palace. Am I crazy thinking he is like really, really solid at centre-back? At the moment, we've got Gasperi and Mkize as our 2 options. If I just compare, I guess, Hesketh with Gasperi here, he is very good, isn't he? He is very good, the 21-year-old English player. Definitely worth signing on a free transfer if he's got reasonable demands. He wants to be an important player. I'll tell him he's a regular starter. He's asking for £3,700. He does want a minimum release clause of 10 million, which, to be honest, given how much he's asking for, I'm kind of willing to give him. I feel like there's going to come a point in this save game where the wages have to scale up a little bit. Jude is already on £4,500. I'm going to try and sign that boy there on a 4-year deal on £4,000. I think he looks mad. He is turning 22 fairly soon, but the scouts like the look of him. Good championship quality player. And yeah, he's just good, isn't he? He's just good. In terms of our current first team centre-back options, we have got a few different players here, but Luke Chambers could be on his way out. And so with that in mind, he wouldn't be a bad player to pick up by any means. I definitely think we could do with another centre-back. You've got Andreni here, who of course is our current backup centre-back. If we just compare him with Connor Hesketh, Connor Hesketh would be a good player. Now I'm scared that having made a bid, loads of other people are going to make bids for him. Also, apparently I'm interested in Thierry Small. I mean, I would be, but his wage demands are probably silly. Mr. Small, do you have small demands? £10,000. Walk away. The other player of the 3 players here, right at the top in terms of sorted by current ability that our scouts have looked at, is Noah Henry, 22 years old, Belgian player. He's not bad. He is actually the kind of player who you could argue could play out in the wide area. But compared to what we've already got, I don't feel like he's a massive step up. There is a lot to like about him, though. When you compare him with Guerrero here, he's not a million miles away. But then again, I don't necessarily feel like we're scrambling for the Guerrero replacement at the moment. I suppose the player to compare him with would be someone like Zenha. And when you compare the 2 of them here, yeah, I'm going to give Zenha the edge. There's not a world of difference, but I don't think it's worth picking him up and also using one of our work permit slots on him. I'm looking at players aged at most 23, sorted by world reputation to see if there's any particularly good players out there that are maybe massively undervalued and worth a punt. The players initially at the top of the list aren't getting me too excited. Lee Sung-jae here, 20 years old, South Korean player. He's not bad. He's not great though, is he? I was looking at a couple of players that play in Korea who were available. You can see I've actually got a couple of them scouted here. Players like Jung Jae-young, who is not a bad centre-back option at 18 years old. The other player I remember looking at was Lee Min. My scouts really like the look of this guy, but I don't think he was interested in a move. And yeah, sadly, he's still not interested in a move. He looks absolutely phenomenal. 18 years old, £2.2 million release clause. Oh, if he was available, I probably would have signed him. I feel like I need to update my scouting focuses. I kind of set up these recruitment focuses, and I don't know about anyone else. I kind of set and then forget about them. There's probably some good players in these lists that I should be looking at, to be fair. Yeah, I have just got all the scouts looking for good youth players, which, when you actually look at some of the results, it looks like they've actually found players. Kingstrom here, I mean, he's not really what we need. A super injury-prone, inconsistent Swedish defensive mid. But he's not awful. Tommy Lambert is transfer listed at Stoke. I don't think I need another striker right now. Carl Carlson. Yeah, look, I'll be honest, it's not the most inspiring of names, but he's got mad potential according to our staff and is a super consistent performer. They think he could be a good championship player in the future. I like the look of this guy. His name may also be a factor. We'll scout him a little bit more, I think. Dejan Ibrahimovic. I mean, Ibrahimovic, striker. He's actually capped for the Bosnian national team at the age of 19. He's a good player. Apparently he has good potential to be a Premier League player, and he's a decent championship player now. I feel like describing this guy's championship quality might be generous. In a weird way, he kind of reminds me of Goldsmith. Is he like Goldsmith? He is like Goldsmith, but 2 years younger. Well, 2.5 years younger. Is he worth a punt? Probably not. No, just let's calm down. I need improvements, not sidesteps. We have had some bids for Norman Hamilton here. Championship sides offering £300,000 for him. I suppose we can always try and negotiate these slightly. 500,000? Okay, you know what? I'm not going to negotiate the one with Rotherham. They can just have him for £375,000. I feel like that's not a bad fee for him, really. We've also had a bid for Ramirov here. 230k, 50% of any profit. We will take that too. And elsewhere, teams not so keen on an offer for McCulloch. I offered him out for an unspecified amount. That's drawn a value of £1.1 million. Teams don't want to spend more than £30,000 on him. You know what? I'll offer him out for 500 and see what they say. On the one hand, it is a little bit sad that the likes of McCulloch, Ramirov and Hamilton, products of our youth academy, aren't going to make it here. But nevertheless, if we could get, the kind of money that we've got for Hamilton and Ramirov for McCulloch, you're looking at recouping close to £1 million for youth prospects that just aren't going to make it, which, I don't know about you, that's going to soften the blow slightly. Has just dawned on me, I didn't actually update the recruitment focuses. Right, we need a defensive midfielder that's a deep line playmaker. On transfer, I'm looking for a player who's at least 3-star current ability and 3-star, we'll go 3.5-star potential. Age at most 25. This is a top priority. Send your best men on this, scouts. We are also looking for that trequartista who could be the replacement for Guerrero. Although I do feel like we're equipped to deal with, time without him. We'll get this set up anyway and just see if we can find anyone. Again, looking for players really aged at most 25. Want players who are approaching their prime, who are going to be able to grow with the club and hopefully spearhead us towards the Premier League in the next few years. Suspect this might happen. Barnsley, Doncaster, Millwall and Stockport have all offered contracts to Hesketh. I'm going to up my offer here. I'm going to offer 4.5 and up the signing on bonus a little bit. I really, really want this guy. I don't know if that's obvious. Jaeger's loan is confirmed. I'm hoping he's going to do well. We will keep an eye on the 19-year-old. Certainly wouldn't disregard him as a player who will never be of use for us, but didn't really improve over the last 12 months as much as I hoped he might. We did give him, some opportunities in League One. The truth is, we didn't. So really, the loan move was needed sooner rather than later. We'll keep an eye on his development. And at this point, to be honest, I'm just waiting for confirmation that Guerrero is no longer with us. I realise that makes it sound like he's died. He's not died. He's just going to go play in the second division of Spain. I mean, he's going to be dead to me after what he's done to me here. But it is going to be £17 million, assuming that move does happen at some point. Oxford have made a new offer for Hesketh. That's not so fun. Sunderland have made a bid for Zenner here of, a pitiful amount. They've offered me £800,000 for the 20-year-old, a player who's valued at up to £1.2 million and is comfortably good enough to feature in our first team. I feel insulted. According to Matthew Hanna, our liaison officer, apparently the unhappiness of Ngoma is causing further unrest. Ricky D and Jude want to have a leaders meeting with me. Look, I can't afford it. We literally cannot afford it. He's asking for absolutely unreasonable things. If he got his way, he'd all be queuing up to get new deals too. That they all hate me. I'm very disappointed. This was a chance to work things out, but all I've learned is we have unprofessional players. They're all disappointed and sad. It's fine. I don't know what the solution here is with Ngoma, because he's unhappy I'm trying to sell him, but then he's unhappy I won't give him a new contract. He is now asking to leave, so maybe he won't be upset anymore if I offer him out. Although, no, apparently he will not react well if I offer him out. He wants to leave, but he also doesn't want me to force him to leave. Ngoma, you are really tarnishing your legacy here, mate. I am sat thinking, what if I lose Ngoma and Guerrero in the same window? That could be what we're going to end up dealing with here. If that's going to happen, I need to be finding a new centre attacking mid to replace Ngoma. I'm going to make this a top priority. But yeah, a little bit of a concern. I feel like I've got suddenly a load of recruitment focuses that I need to have lined up. Scouts, please go out there and find players for me. You know what? Amongst all the chaos, I'm just glad that Sam Fay is training well. He's got a 9.1 for his training rating. He and Espinoza are kicking on and continuing to improve. I feel like this bloke might be just staking his claim to be in the first team with Ngoma leaving at this point. I am conscious as well, at some point here, I have to end today's episode because there is going to have to be a part 2. I know we've not signed a whole lot of players, but I do feel like the challenge of what we've got to do here is becoming slightly clearer. Can people stop bidding for Hesketh, please? I hate the fact I'm doing this. I'm going to give his agent a little bit more money. I genuinely think this guy's worth maybe breaking the bank slightly for. 21 years old, even with that release clause, he would be just a mad free transfer to pick up. As I sit here today, I believe the new season starts in like 3 weeks. Yeah, there is not a lot of time to sort stuff out here. Also, my scouts are coming back with recommendations for players. Sadly, they're players that have no interest in me. I think some of these I might have scouted when they were free agents, and since then, they've gone on to find clubs. Victor, are you good? He's not as good as I thought his star ratings were going to make him out to be. I mean, Derek here. Derek, League One player, championship potential. Is Derek good? Derek is naturally a defensive mid. Derek, can you play deep line playmaker? I mean, actually, when you look at him as a deep line playmaker, he ticks a lot of the boxes. He just can't defend, which, I don't know, that could be slightly problematic in our team. I'm going to compare him with Timmy anyway. I mean, when you look at it like this, he's just not as good, is he? I'm probably a great buy at £160,000, just not for us. Okay, Ramirov's transfer's confirmed. 230k for him is nice. Hoping before I hit stop record today, we might get some confirmation on Ngoy, Hamilton, and Guerrero as well. I feel like if we can get all these sales confirmed and done, that would be fantastic. For some reason, part of me feels like Guerrero might turn down the La Liga 2 teams. Can you imagine if he did that after all of this? One player I had completely forgotten about here was Mascara. He doesn't have a work permit. He needed to go out on loan. MacArthur want him on loan as an important first-team player. They can absolutely have him. Go tear it up in Australia. And I can't believe it. We are going to end the episode here. Guerrero's future remains unclear after he failed to agree a move away from the club. He rejected contracts from Las Palmas and Alaves. So now he's not even leaving. I don't even know at this point. I don't even know. I'm going to set his price to unspecified. Maybe he just stays. What is going on? I feel like transfer specials at this point are kind of divided into 2 parts, aren't they? The first part is getting all our business at home sorted, and the second bit is when I get let off the leash, lose my will to do transfers, cry, and then have a breakdown. Saying all of that, though, I actually think we're in a really good spot here where there's nowhere in the team where I'm panicking thinking, oh my gosh, we have to find a player there. But it'd be safe to say that before the end of next episode, we really need to sort out what's happening with Ngoma and Guerrero. I'd love to know what you would do if you were me down below. It's kind of apparent just looking through the players that we're looking at through player searches. There are not that many top quality players actually available, he says. There's a new player here. Diego, are you good? He's quite good. I don't need a right back unless I sell Ricky D. How much does he want? How much he wants to be a start? He's going to ask for like 10,000, isn't he? 14. Right, we'll walk away. But yes, just circling back to the original point, there's not that many players sorted by ability who can really compete with players we've already got in the first team. So, with the exception of Ngoma and Guerrero, who are clearly very unhappy and perhaps overvalued, I don't feel like we're selling anyone else. Really, it's about just adding a little bit of strength here and there. I'd love to know your thoughts on the current transfer window down in the comments. Am I smart just to be making as much money as possible given the club's financial predicament? You know, we need to make this cash from somewhere. The bank balance is now the best it's ever been. That's something that we've not really acknowledged. I know some people get annoyed when there aren't transfers in during transfer specials. We've made £10 million in sales. That is worth celebration. Of course, it could have been nearer 30 million if not for this guy turning down his move. I'm not angry, I'm fine. Smile. It's okay. Everything's fine. I'm not hurting. The start of the championship season is 20 days away. We have to make transfers, and we have to make transfers fast next time. Hope you guys are excited for it. Let me know where in the first team you think I should be strengthening. Is there any player who's going under the radar as a player who should be ousted or maybe put in the first team? This is how we'd line up to start the season with the new signing NDI at left back. If this is the team, I actually think it's okay. But maybe I'm kidding myself. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. One final Park to Prem episode to end the week coming your way tomorrow. I hope you guys are excited for it. Leave a like if you've enjoyed the video today. And I'll see you guys on the next one tomorrow.